Your creatine has been working against you the entire time, and nobody ever bothered to explain why. You've been drinking water all day, feeling refreshed, thinking that counts as proper hydration for your muscles. It doesn't, because deep cellular hydration is a completely different mechanism than simply feeling less thirsty afterward. This is the exact hidden variable that decides whether creatine actually works inside your muscle cells or not. Most people believe creatine is just a powder that builds muscle and creates energy during intense training sessions. That belief is incomplete, and it's costing you a shocking percentage of your actual results every single day. Scientists classify creatine as something called a cellular osmolyte, and that classification changes everything you thought you knew. An osmolyte's entire job is pulling water directly into your cells, creating swelling that most people misunderstand completely. That swelling you sometimes feel after dosing creatine isn't bloating, and it definitely isn't a side effect. It is the actual mechanism, the real reason creatine protects and builds your muscle tissue so effectively. The more creatine sitting inside your cells, the more hydrated those cells become immediately and consistently. A landmark study in the Journal of Applied Physiology confirmed creatine directly increases hydration inside real muscle tissue. But researchers found something far more surprising buried inside that same groundbreaking hydration data they collected. Creatine's hydration effect ties more closely to stopping protein breakdown than to actually building new muscle. Creatine isn't just constructing tissue, it's actively defending the muscle you already worked so hard to build. That swollen, hydrated state sends a powerful signal, telling your body to stay in growth mode. This single distinction changes everything about how you should think about stacking and timing your creatine. Most people keep chasing more creatine when what they actually need are better internal conditions entirely. Here's exactly where most people quietly sabotage nearly 30% of their own creatine results daily. Creatine cannot simply float through your cell membrane on its own without serious outside assistance first. It relies completely on a specific transporter protein called SLC6A8, the true gatekeeper of absorption. That transporter controls literally every single molecule of creatine your body ever manages to absorb. Here's the part nobody ever tells you, and it completely changes how you should approach hydration. This transporter absolutely requires sodium to physically pull creatine into your hungry, waiting muscle cells. Creatine uptake is directly coupled to sodium ions moving inward across every single muscle cell membrane. Your sodium-potassium pump constantly pushes sodium outside the cell, creating a powerful concentration difference. That exact difference between inside and outside the cell creates the pulling force creatine desperately needs. A stronger sodium gradient means a stronger pull, driving significantly more creatine into your muscle instantly. If your sodium levels are low, that gradient weakens and the transporter simply stops functioning properly. Your creatine then floats uselessly through your bloodstream, never actually reaching the muscle where it belongs. Picture a package delivered to your door but left outside in the pouring rain, unopened. That's exactly what happens when you take creatine while dehydrated without even realizing the mistake. Dehydration activates a system called AMPK, your body's internal emergency energy triage and survival mechanism. This system screams that survival mode is active, so shut down every non-essential process immediately. Creatine uptake gets deprioritized instantly because your body decides survival matters more than muscle growth right now.
Being dehydrated while taking creatine means your own body actively blocks its own absorption pathway. On top of that, dehydration drops your plasma volume, meaning far less blood reaches your working muscles. Less blood flow means less creatine even reaches the transporter before absorption becomes physically possible. You're losing creatine twice, once during delivery and again during the actual absorption process itself. Proper hydration increases blood flow, boosts nutrient transport, and creates the exact conditions creatine desperately needs. But hydration alone still isn't the complete answer, and this is where most people keep failing. Many people unknowingly waste creatine's full potential by completely ignoring carbohydrate and electrolyte timing altogether. There's a powerful carbohydrate and insulin connection that dramatically changes how much creatine your body retains. Every single gram of glycogen stored inside your muscles holds 3 to 4 grams of water. If glycogen stores run low, your body holds far less water, weakening creatine's entire pulling effect. This is exactly why pairing creatine with electrolytes and small carbohydrates isn't convenient, it's strategic. A classic study gave subjects 5 grams of creatine either completely alone or alongside real carbohydrates. The group combining creatine with carbohydrates showed dramatically higher retention than the group taking it alone. But the actual reason behind this result is far more fascinating than simple insulin explanations suggest. There are 3 completely separate insulin mechanisms working together, each one building directly on the last. These mechanisms don't work in isolation, they stack and compound to massively increase total absorption. The first mechanism involves insulin increasing activity inside your sodium-potassium pump within skeletal muscle cells. When insulin spikes, that pump works harder, strengthening your sodium gradient and pulling creatine in aggressively. More creatine enters your muscle with every single dose because that driving force gets directly amplified. The second mechanism triggers vasodilation inside your muscle through a powerful internal release of nitric oxide. More blood flow means more creatine physically reaching the muscle membrane and exposed transporter proteins. Think of it like widening a highway while simultaneously raising the speed limit for maximum throughput. The third mechanism ties everything together, and it's honestly the part almost nobody ever mentions. We already know creatine enters cells and pulls water inward, triggering powerful anabolic signaling throughout the tissue. Insulin enhances that entire process by activating mTOR, reducing breakdown while driving protein synthesis simultaneously upward. When the cell swells through this insulin-enhanced process, it holds on to even more creatine internally. This creates a positive feedback loop where more insulin creates more swelling, and swelling creates more retention. You don't need massive carbohydrates to trigger this entire cascade. Surprisingly small amounts work remarkably well. Research suggests 10 to 30 grams of carbohydrates alongside creatine activates this powerful response completely. Creatine taken with a mixed meal containing protein, carbohydrates, and electrolytes represents the ideal absorption scenario. Creatine works best not through higher doses, but through finally creating the right internal conditions. The worst possible move is taking creatine immediately after sweating heavily while completely dehydrated and depleted. That's the exact recipe for bloating and poor absorption that convinces people creatine simply isn't working. Always rehydrate first with water and electrolytes before ever thinking about taking your daily creatine dose. Take creatine alongside that electrolyte drink, or shortly after while your body feels fully replenished.
If possible, pair creatine with a real meal containing carbohydrates and a generous pinch of sodium. We need to flip the entire conversation because creatine doesn't just need hydration, it enhances it. When creatine enters the cell alongside sodium, the osmotic load inside increases immediately and dramatically. This creates more dissolved particles inside the cell than outside, naturally drawing water inward to balance. That swelling isn't the puffy water retention most people fear, it's deep intracellular fullness instead. Your cells are actively self-regulating hydration, and creatine is one of the most powerful drivers behind it. Once swollen and hydrated, that cell enters a fully protective anti-catabolic mode and holds creatine longer. When a cell signals growth mode, everything inside, including water, creatine, and amino acids, gets retained. This hydration story becomes even more powerful once we bring glycogen storage and GLUT4 into focus. GLUT4 is the transporter responsible for pulling glucose out of your bloodstream into waiting muscle cells. When GLUT4 functions efficiently, your muscles absorb carbohydrates better, store more glycogen, and hold more water. A remarkable study immobilized one leg in a cast for 2 full weeks to induce atrophy.
Half the subjects received creatine during rehab, while the other half received only a placebo treatment. During immobilization, GLUT4 content dropped around 20%, meaning muscles struggled absorbing glucose effectively at all. In the creatine group, GLUT4 actually increased by 9%, protecting the glucose transporter during complete disuse. After 3 weeks of rehab, the creatine group's GLUT4 sat 40% above their original starting baseline. Their muscle glycogen was dramatically higher, triggering a supercompensation response the placebo group completely missed. The creatine group didn't just recover, they rebuilt muscle faster than the placebo group could ever match. Remember, every gram of glycogen holds 3 to 4 grams of water, and creatine massively increases glycogen. Creatine indirectly increases total water inside your muscle tissue through 2 separate, simultaneously compounding hydration mechanisms. You get direct osmotic hydration from creatine itself, plus a separate glycogen-based hydration effect stacking. These 2 mechanisms stack together, creating a double hydration effect that amplifies everything creatine already does. No other single supplement creates this kind of layered, compounding hydration effect inside your muscle cells. Creatine might even help you metabolize carbohydrates more efficiently by improving your GLUT4 transporter's overall sensitivity. Creatine already does remarkable things for hydration, but now we reach the compound that multiplies everything. Most people dismissed this compound for years, associating it only with cheap, sugary energy drinks. The energy drink industry accidentally stumbled onto something powerful and buried it beside sugar and caffeine. In reality, this compound is one of the most researched amino acids found throughout the human body. We're talking about taurine, existing in massive concentrations inside your brain, heart, and skeletal muscle tissue. Taurine is also an osmolyte, and its core job is regulating fluid balance inside every single cell. Creatine is the force pulling water inward, while taurine manages everything once that water arrives inside. Without taurine regulating the influx, cells become oversaturated and lose the electrochemical balance they desperately need. Taurine prevents that imbalance from happening, making it deeply synergistic when combined specifically alongside creatine. Taurine also plays a critical role in calcium handling, directly affecting the quality of every contraction. It improves calcium sensitivity, giving you a more efficient contraction and relaxation cycle during every single rep.
You get raw ATP energy from creatine, while taurine ensures your muscle's actual motor functions correctly. Taurine also protects your mitochondria by buffering against oxidative stress that builds during intense training sessions. During hard training, reactive oxygen species accumulate, impairing ATP synthesis and making creatine noticeably less effective. Taurine buffers against that stress, protecting the precise environment where creatine performs all of its work. Creatine generates the energy, and taurine neutralizes the metabolic exhaust, protecting the entire cellular environment perfectly. Here's something crucial. Taurine uses its own separate transporter called SLC6A6, completely distinct from creatine's pathway. They use entirely different entry points into the cell, meaning they never compete for absorption whatsoever. Once both compounds sit inside the cell together, they work in powerful, well-documented synergy immediately. A true ergogenic stack is built on real cellular mechanisms, and this combination genuinely earns that title. Many people take taurine specifically to prevent muscle cramping by regulating electrolyte balance deep inside cells. Together, creatine and taurine address the full spectrum of cellular hydration in ways neither achieves alone. When you combine creatine, taurine, and electrolytes, you're building what could be called the ultimate hydration trifecta. Sodium powers the transporter, creatine pulls water inward and provides energy, taurine stabilizes everything that follows. Electrolytes maintain every necessary gradient, and the entire system works together in powerful, documented synergy. This entire stack is backed by real science, with every single component playing a clearly defined role. Understanding this changes everything, because creatine was never about taking more, it was always about conditions.